Senator Roy Blunt is in the studio with us this afternoon for a visit. How are you, Senator?
Hey, Mark, I'm good. Good to be with you.
Just telling you, I was in Washington. I'm sorry I didn't catch up with you there, but one of the things that I timed very well, and I've never really seen it in full bloom, the cherry blossoms last week.
Yeah. They were a little bit early this year, I think, and may have frozen today. I understand that it was almost freezing in Washington early this morning, and it was freezing, a couple of places in our state right on the edge of freezing during the course of the week. It's been a wild winter. Just won't let go.
It will not let go. I think we're ready for it to let go. So what are you doing in St. Louis today?
Well, I was meeting with some people about what we need to do about infrastructure. We had a news opportunity and a roundtable over at the Metropolitan Sewer District, where they've got a sewer system here that's in some parts of it were put in while Abraham Lincoln was president, and some of that's still working perfectly well.
Is that actually true or an exaggeration?
No, that's what he said today. He said we've got this part of our system was put in during the 1860s and still working as you'd want it to, but it's probably not going to work another 100 years. And so what do we do about this infrastructure, not just what we see, and we all know the roads, the bridges, the port facilities, all that are great opportunities for us to compete. But what do we do about that, and what do we do about what's underground and above ground that we don't think about as much? And so we're looking at ways, Senator Bennett from Colorado and I, a guy named John Delaney, a new Democrat from Maryland, and others are looking at how you could take some of the stranded profits overseas that American companies have and figure out a way that they can get those companies back by buying bonds in an infrastructure authority. And we're beginning to get a lot of attention to that idea. So we're in a great place right where you and I live to compete over the next several decades, but we have to be sure that we've got the highways, the bridges, the port facilities, the underground facilities that let us do that, and hopefully we're going to put one more tool in the toolbox if we can make this American Infrastructure Authority concept work, and it would be just for state and local government, not for the federal government, but the federal government would in essence give up some of that tax income that they're not going to get anyway, because people aren't going to bring these profits back at a high tax rate. The last thing we'd want them to do, I think, is invest those profits over there. We need to find ways that people that are responsible to their corporate stockholders can bring money back here in a way that makes sense.
On the topic of taxes, we just had Tax Day, and I want you to tell me a little bit about the Taxpayer Right to Know Act.
Well, we're working on several things. The Taxpayer Right to Know Act is, I think this, we've got a Taxpayer Transparency Act and a Taxpayer Right to Know Act. One of them is where if taxpayers are paying for ads that they have to say, just like I have to say if I'm paying for an ad, that it's paid for by taxpayer dollars. So when you see that somebody in the federal government's spending your money that way.
Do you think that would change behavior of how much? Because you see ads, and every once in a while, I think even I would say to myself, is that my taxpayer money going to pay for that campaign?
I think it would change behavior. More importantly, it would make people think twice at the government level before they put those ads on. And then also the taxpayer protections of other kinds, where if the federal government can tape what you're saying to them whenever they're calling to talk to you about a tax issue, you ought to be able to tape the federal government as well. And frankly, I've got a piece of legislation where the government person you were talking to about your taxes would have to tell you, if you want to tape this conversation, you can, and tell you in advance you have the right to do that, so you're not hearing one thing from one IRS person only to find out later that, that's not, surely they didn't tell you exactly that. We have the right to know exactly what they tell us, and this system only works if people have confidence in it. I think Lois Lerner and her crew did a lot to damage confidence in the tax system. We need to be looking for ways to restore that confidence.
Let me ask you about some energy issues right now. This is I think, important to people in Missouri, considering how much coal is used, and the Keystone Pipeline has still not been approved. Sheldon Whitehouse, one of your colleagues in the Senate from Rhode Island, who's a member of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, and then also Henry Waxman from over in the House, one of your former colleagues, just wrote this piece saying that and there's a fear that if Keystone is approved, that the oil from the tar sands will spew 17% more greenhouse gas. President Carter came out today, and he came out in opposition to Keystone. The president's still holding up on this. Is there still a possibility that Keystone can get approved? And I guess my question, it seems repetitive, what's the holdup? I think that's somewhat rhetorical because the holdup is you have environmental groups and folks like White House and, Henry Waxman and now President Carter chiming in saying that it's bad for the environment.
Well, of course, it's not bad for the environment. It's the right thing to do. If I'd ever have any doubt about this on an energy issue, if Henry Waxman and Sheldon Whitehouse and Jimmy Carter all agree, I'm glad I'm on the other side. I am glad I'm on the other side.
That's a very good way to sum that up, I think.
The other people leaving the White House, like the Secretary Salazar, the former Secretary of Interior, was asked about 6 weeks ago. He's been gone for 6 months now. Was asked about 6 weeks ago. I guess he'd been gone about half a year. He said, of course we should build a Keystone Pipeline. The president's energy advisor that left a few months ago, when asked a couple of weeks after that, what about the Keystone Pipeline? Of course we should build the Keystone Pipeline.
Even Senator McCaskill thinks we should build the Keystone Pipeline.
Even Senator McCaskill thinks we should build the Keystone Pipeline. It makes sense, and we should do it. And the president, though, the longer he puts it off, the less motivated he probably is to do it, because the economy that he's responsible for could already be benefiting not just from the jobs to build the pipeline, but from what happens whenever people know that your energy needs are more likely to be met, your utility bills more likely to be stable, your delivery system's going to work. People start creating other kinds of jobs too. I think eventually the president has to do this because it's almost a no-brainer.
Well, you would think. I don't know why he hasn't done it so far. Senator Blunt, good to see you. By the way, I think I asked you this last time. Have you been over to Ballpark Village? Have you seen it yet?
I've seen it. I've driven by a couple of times.
Have you been inside?
Great. I haven't been inside. I got to get in.
Today. Get over there and see
I'm on the way. Actually, I'm on the way to the Arch. The Australian ambassadors here at my invitation. We're
Awesome.
going to go to Boeing in the morning and walk down the flight line. They've just bought some new fighter jets from Boeing, and he's here to walk down that flight line with me and say thanks to the guys that are building those planes for their government. But I'm going to meet him down at the Arch and talk about what we're going to do down there to connect all of that up.
Take him to
with the
Ballpark
city.
Village.
And
maybe
now we've got the reason to go to Ballpark Village as well.
Maybe he can get a Vegemite hot dog or something like that. I don't know how that works. Senator Blunt, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be here.